Welcome. My name is Diane Bloodworth, and I'm a member of the Terry College Alumni Board, and I'm also the co-chair for the Terry Third Thursday program. And I just want to welcome all of you this morning to the Terry Third Thursday. And if this is your first time coming to a program, welcome to the Terry Executive Education Center. This is the home base for the Terry Atlanta programs, and it's also a location where the Terry alumni can meet. I want to give a little bit of recognition to our sponsors. First, the Bank of North Georgia. Matt, thank you for being here this morning. We appreciate it. And we also have a couple of broadcasting or media sponsors, Public Broadcasting Atlanta. I think, Bonnie, you heard them announcing this opportunity on the radio. Yeah, a little pressure for Bonnie. And the Atlanta Business Chronicle. So how many of you made it to the Gala, the Terry Gala last month? Were any of you there? Yes. Was it not a wonderful event? We really had a great event, and the Alumni Board exceeded all of our goals in terms of auction sales, ticket sales, corporate sponsorships, and in fact, we netted $215,000 that will go back to the Terry College. So that is outstanding. And I'm not sure they're all here this morning, but I did want to congratulate Jill and Jennifer and Elizabeth and Lisa. They all worked very hard on the gala, and it was a great success. And just a final congratulations to the alumni award winners, who were Davis Knox, John McMullen, and Kessel Stelling. Well, it's almost summer, but we have some great programs coming up this summer, and let me just tell you a little bit about them so you can put them on your calendar. On June 18th, Robin Laudermilk, who is the president and CEO of Aaron Rents, will be here. And his topic is the family business as a community partner. On July the 16th, we're looking forward to having Eric Zier. And Eric's the vice president of Bank of America. But you may know him more for his seasonal work when he is one of the voices of Georgia football. And if you remember, Eric was a 4-year starter at quarterback at Georgia from 91 to 94. And then he joined the broadcast team 2 years ago. And then finally, on August 20th, we have Tim Stack. And Tim is the CEO and president of Piedmont Healthcare. And he's going to take on an interesting topic that has no shortage of opinions, and that is politics and healthcare. Oh, yeah. You want to be here for that. And you can register for any of these events on the Terry College webpage. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker, Bonney Shuman, and I'll give you the formal introduction, and then I'll give you the real story, because we went to college together, and we were in the same sorority, so I can give the real scoop, too. Now you're really nervous. Bonney is the CEO of Stratix Corporation, and if you don't know Stratix, they're in the barcode business, and they're headquartered here in Atlanta. And for more than a quarter of a century, Stratix has helped hundreds of end users, distributors, and other organizations gain a competitive advantage by utilizing automatic data capture. And Bonney has been an industry leader as well. She's worked with a number of organizations in the establishment of their barcode guidelines. And I think to her credit, she worked on or was primarily responsible for a guide to barcoding, and that's been used in the industry as a leading reference manual. She was on the board for the Automatic Data Capture Trade Association, known as AIM USA, and she served as the group president for 2 years. She's a former board member of Women in Packaging and the Georgia Women's Business Council. She's currently on the board for the Frederica Academy, and she's an officer of AIDC 100. Busy, aren't you, Bonney? And serves proudly, I might add, on the executive board of the UGA Alumni Association. She's a Terry grad, yeah, with a degree in finance. And really, there is no real scoop. I have to tell you, Bonney, even in college, she was the president of our sorority and had a wonderful leadership style. She had a lot of fun, but you could tell Bonney even then was very focused. So when I heard about her corporate success a few years ago, it came as no surprise to me. So Bonney's going to talk this morning about the work-life juggle. Welcome. You make it look easy, so let's hear what you have to say.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Diane. Thanks for bringing up that quarter of a century reference. That was special. That's true. Good point. Good point. Of course, we started very young. We were the first to get into Georgia as a young teen. Young teen. Oh gosh, that's harsh, but true. I'm very tickled to be here. One, for the number of speakers that are coming up, it's quite an impressive list. When Diane asked me to do this last fall, I very naively went, "Oh, sure, I'll do that. Next spring, I'm not worried." And then last week, I went, "Oh." A couple of issues. Number one, I haven't really thought through this topic. And number two, I never really generally speak to adults before 8 a.m. Not coherent thoughts. I'm not a morning person. Many of you know that. I come by it naturally. My mother's here. She rode in with me, didn't speak to me the whole way. It's a lifelong pattern that those of you that know me. So thank you for having me. I'm very flattered. I'm also very flattered by many friends that are here that I'm fearful will be heckling me at various points. And go for it. I'm ready, I think, except for Tim, which you've threatened to do. Don't, please. I am going to talk about a topic that kind of is evolved as a result of me participating in a lot of panels and conferences where folks go, tell me a little bit about how you get that work-life balance. And the first couple of times I answered it it's really not that hard. Some days are better than others, Then about the third time they asked me, I started crying. And it's really, then Dr. Phil came to the next conference with some intervention. Then I realized that perhaps this topic needed a little more attention. So because of that, I've spent a fair amount of time, and actually last fall spoke to a group of students at Agnes Scott specifically about it. So I really didn't think about this for the first time last week. I have spent about a time. So we'll start to see if y'all are with me, if you've had enough coffee. How many of you feel like you have enough hours in the day to do everything you want so well? Tim? No. Anybody feel that way? How many of you feel stressed because you don't feel like you have enough hours in the day to really do everything you want to do? Okay, now's the time to get into it. Come on, a little audience participation. Thank you. Good. That's what I think most of us feel. And I think, frankly, it's been, in my quarter of a century career, it is a situation that's made worse by a number of things. And I'll speak to those. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. What started as work-life balance, but what I think is really a better way to view it is work-life juggle. And that isn't bad. So I'm going to speak to that, but before I do, there are a couple other things I have to cover. And I thought I'd be a little organized and keep me on task here. I have to give you a little bit of a corporate overview about what my company does so that you'll get all fired up and want to embrace it. I'll tell a little bit of personal things that Diane didn't fess up about. I will confess them here. And again, Dr. Phil might want to come to a later series. I'll tell you a few things about what I've learned, some good, some bad, and hopefully you'll take away something from that. And talk about really why I feel like Juggle is a healthier approach to what's going to make you successful and enjoy what you do, and a few things on how you can leave here and be better prepared. So y'all ready? Yeah. Go. Thank you for that enthusiastic response. Okay, here's what I do. Diane said I'm the CEO of Stratix. Really probably better positioned as an owner. I do have a very engaged management staff with a president that really does day-to-day that reports to me. We're located here in Norcross, but I don't live here. I live in South Georgia. But I do frequent here every week or every other week, depending on what customers are coming in and what's going on. So I'm proud to say that I've done this for 26 years. We're now called Stratix. We changed our name to Stratix in 1998. Prior to then, we started in 1983 as Barcode Systems. But barcoding had become rather generic. We wanted to get some trademark protection. We changed our name, as I said, in 98. Today, we're a full enterprise solution innovator, meaning that we take mobility solutions and develop them and implement them throughout the enterprise. That's usually on a handheld device that allows folks to take technology and use it out in the mobile workplace. There are tons of examples that I'll give you here in a second, but we'll provide consulting, software development, the actual hardware. We help you manage the assets so you can keep up with them because there's a significant cost of ownership involved. And the intent, of course, is to help a business run more efficiently, to help you get productivity savings, labor savings, the like. And there's some really exciting, and I can tell you're all looking at me like, yeah, really exciting things you can do with technology. So that's what we do. As I told you, we're located in Norcross, right up the road. We're a woman-owned enterprise. We were certified by WeBank, I think, for the first time in 2001. That is an annual certification that we have to go through. Once you go through that nightmare the first time with a binder of paperwork this thick, and people, Nancy will recognize some folks, it's a pretty strenuous certification. But once you do it, the annual renewal is not quite as intense. They do come to your workplace. They validate that you're really alive and have a clue. So, there is something ongoing. It is not a deal maker. I don't want to suggest that to any women business owners here, but it sometimes is a deal differentiator. If you're in with a competitor, sometimes it is something that is a differentiator. So it's a certification I'm glad we got. We are privately held. I'm the sole shareholder. And last year we had audited revenues of $106 million, and we have sales offices throughout the U.S. That's the story. We have been very fortunate to get a great deal of recognition and achievement, and some of those are listed for you. I am certainly not going to read them to you, but they're from some very nice publications. Atlanta Business Chronicle most recently. We were on the top 25 list of women-owned businesses in Atlanta. We've been recognized by Diversity Business on one of the top in the U.S., and gotten some nice recognition from our customers and the like, which is great. But I think the thing we're proudest of is our customer list. And a few names that I think you'll recognize up there, many that we've had for years. We're very proud to Home Depot we've worked with over 20 years, Genuine Parts Corporation, Napa, long-standing, Lowe's for well over 10 years. A lot of very long relationships that we take great pride in maintaining and continue to build on. That's the nice thing about technology is there's always a new, faster, better way. And we feel like that's certainly one component. We're also proud of the fact that probably 6-7 years ago, if you looked at our product or our customer mix, we were about 85% retail-centric. And we have been able, since that time, by making a real concerted effort to diversify, we have been able to go into other markets, field mobility, transportation, logistics, and government. So that's kind of a quick and dirty, and again, a nice something that we're quite proud of. So let me give you just a couple of gory details, and I'm not going to read these out loud either, but just an example of what we do. I could do a whole, as you can imagine, couple hours on and to get you excited about some of our solutions. These are two of our most recent we're really proud of. Again, it shows a little bit of transition from being so retail-centric. And this one is for Sara Lee Bakery. It's a route delivery application. They were using some equipment that had become obsolete, some software that was no longer functioning. And they have over 5,500 associates out in the field that will take product and deliver it. And a real need, as you can imagine, and a real opportunity for them to deliver the product accurately. So they scan it when they deliver it. They capture a signature on the delivery. They're able to take sales orders right there rather than another activity. So you see some of the efficiencies there. They're able to upload it remotely to get the order to the home office so that an invoice can be generated in a very timely fashion, electronically transmitted back so they get a payment quicker. But the customer's more satisfied, too, because they know they got the right product. They know they can order the product efficiently that they need. It's a real win-win for Sara Lee and for their customers, and the whole supply chain is shortened. The customer's happy the whole bit. So we are tickled about this. It was a software developed, pretty intense software process that we had to develop. But we are now, out of their 5,500 routes, I think about 25% implemented and rolling it out, and we'll finish it up this year. So that's a pretty thrilling one, and I'm sure you can share the enthusiasm on this one. Equally exciting here, Napa, a local one, and they had a similar situation in delivering auto parts. And there was a route optimization issue. They had agents going out delivering product, but did they have the right product? Where should they go to first? You can imagine Atlanta, some of the challenges on how. So this software actually looked at the orders that came in the night before, did a route optimization on where should they go first, what's the most efficient way, automated the way they deliver the product. They could take returns to the van, the whole bit. Again, a real supply chain really optimization. They've been really tickled about it, and they're going to roll this out nationwide starting next year. So it's been a real hit. So we could go on and on. We have some great applications locally. We work with Delta Airlines, Federated Department Stores. If you've ever gone in their shoe department and they scan the shoe and they send a message back to the stockroom, that's our solution that we're really tickled about. And if you've ever purchased shoes that way, you will love it. Home Depot, the cordless scanners we sell at the front end. We also do a backdoor receiving for them. So there's some really thrilling ones, and if you want to hear more about it, see me afterwards. Okay, so enough about that. Okay, that's what I do. That's what my company does. It's a very exciting thing. But let me take a step back and talk about really the topic, work-life balance / juggle. So that means I've got to bear some personal details, and let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I got here and really came to this story. My family moved to Atlanta in 1971, and as a result, my dad was with Texaco. He was kind of a career with Texaco, and at the time with Texaco, you moved frequently if you wanted to get ahead. So Mom, Dad, and 3 brothers moved here in 71, and I started high school here in 8th grade. It was the 6th school I had attended since starting school. So you can imagine the enthusiasm as an 8th grader that I embraced this change. My mom's here. Yeah, she almost suffocated me when I came home nightly and, whoa, why did we move again? But looking back, it was really a great opportunity. I certainly, thank goodness, can point to, I also have a friend here who was the first person to talk to me in homeroom in 8th grade, and probably the only. She felt sorry for it. She said it was because I had this needlepoint bag that my grandmother had made, and she thought, well, if anybody would make her a needlepoint bag, maybe she has some skills that are worth cultivating. So thank goodness Donna did talk to me in 8th grade, and I kind of worked through that. But it was a good move for my family. We stayed here. I was happy to graduate from high school here. I landed at Georgia eventually. Again, that's a whole other story. But I was proud to graduate from Terry College and get an opportunity as a result of some high school experience to get a job with a savings and loan. And it started there. And that's really, I started working for them during high school, and that's really what got me interested in business and finance and encouraged me to get a finance degree, which I think has served me well. Truly, that was my first lesson. For me to land the job at the Savings and Loan was my first job in networking, my first experience with networking. And this will be a quiz for those of you that know me. My first paying job was, speak up, Krispy Kreme. You knew I couldn't do a talk without that. A lot of people have started there and gone on to big things. Probably literally. I didn't think about that until that really was not planned. My first paying job was at Krispy Kreme. Started right before I turned 15. My sweet dad would drive me to work because I couldn't drive for the 5 a.m. to noon shift, which is hysterical now. Again, I am not a morning person. But I managed to talk to this lady at the counter who was a frequent customer, and it turns out she was a senior vice president at Savings and Loan that offered me my first job beyond Krispy Kreme. And then out of college, that's really how my career started. That was my first networking. So make a note to some of you folks here in college, Wes and Sammy. How about that? You never know when a networking opportunity is going to show up. So I started the Savings and Loan. Life was good. I became a branch manager of a branch actually right around the corner from here that's now Blue Point Restaurant. Oh, times change. It didn't look like that then. It was a really nasty, anyway. And I was somewhat challenged in this job opportunity, and I had another opportunity present itself. And I wish I could sit here and say it was Terry College that made me an entrepreneur. And I could say that, but it would be a lie. I really had to be coerced down this path. A gentleman that I knew from college who also lived in my apartment complex came to me, wanted a loan to start this business. He was so fired up about it. It was going to be the greatest thing. Had I ever heard of a barcode? And went on and on and on. And I did not give him the loan to start the business, which that should have been my first clue. I didn't. But he borrowed the money from his mom and started it anyway and hired somebody to work for him. He was very persistent in this business opportunity. He was quite a salesman. He was also a Terry College grad, so we can at least point to that. And that is Dave Knowlton, who ultimately talked me into coming to work with him. There's a whole other story again. Most of y'all know it. I'm not going to go down there. Let's just say he was my business partner for 24 years. The sad part is that he did pass away in 2007, very tragically. The good part is that he really created a great foundation at Stratix, and we build on that every day. And 2 months ago celebrated our 26th year in business, which we're really, really proud of. So that's kind of the story on how did I get to Atlanta, how did I get to Georgia, how did my career start, and how did I end up in this groovy barcoding. It was initially barcoding, but we do a lot of other technology solutions now. And that's it. I'm not going to tell anything else personal, and if you ask, you're in trouble. Okay. What have I learned during this course of business? And the first time I sat down to say lessons learned, really there were about 12 things that I thought were oh so important to share. And you'll be glad to know that I pared them down so that you can carry on with your day. The first is something that came up as a result of, I kind of tried to reflect on all these times I've asked to talk, and it's usually with a panel of other women business owners or business owners. And more than a dozen times, and this probably dates me a little bit because this is probably in the last 10 years, 15 years, people say, how have you existed as a woman in a male-dominated field? Because truly the first 15 years that I would go into a business meeting, because traditionally technology, IT, Diane, you can relate, I was the only woman in a meeting. And that happened more times than it didn't happen. And I never really thought about it till I was asked this over and over and over, and I started thinking, well, I finally came to the conclusion that I think I'm gender invisible. That's probably, I don't think, that could be a Dr. Phil series. Yeah. We're not going to coin this as a phrase that I'm going to say a lot, but let's just say I view a business situation in that regard. And I really think that that has helped me tremendously in dealing with work situations. When I walked into a room and there were 8 men in there to make a presentation or to discuss a project that was being considered, I never really just saw 8 men and went, oh, Lord, those are 8 men. What in the world are we going to talk about it? And I think it's a result of 2 things. I have 3 brothers. They really don't scare me. They should. Sorry. But I was the best child. So I really was very comfortable in that kind of situation. I always had friends over. I never really worried about it. And truly the fact of going into a new classroom for over and over and over really was kind of a life thing. It was like, okay, great, here's another meeting. I don't know anybody. And obviously I need to get to know you, and we're going to work through this. So I think those 2 things have really served me well. And I suggest that if that is an issue that you feel is a limitation, to get beyond it. And that's regardless of what gender you are. If you go in with a perception that, oh, good, here are a bunch of women bimbos, it's probably not good. In fact, it's not good. So if it is a situation that you find limiting in any way, shape, or form, try to put on a new way to look at it. It's served me well, and I encourage you to do it. And it's probably beyond gender in terms of the things you could think about as a preconception of a situation. The second is really number 1 on my list, without a doubt, and I'll say value of relationships. And this has so many subsets of it. Certainly, I wouldn't be here without my mom and dad, who have done so much to support me. And that's not why I brought you here today, to make up for not getting you a Mother's Day gift, but perhaps this will help, okay? Always, when I really had this decision on, do I do this? Do I have this little safety net at the bank? Should I make another move? I always got great advice from them, and today still that is the case. I have a lot of friends that are here to support me. Y'all have always been here for me. Thank you very much, and that's definitely key. From a working standpoint, our work culture has always been very much team-oriented. And if somebody drops the ball, somebody else picks it up. What are we going to do as a team to make our customer a customer for life, to make our customers understand that we're doing the right thing, and that what we have painted on our wall, we're exceeding a customer's expectations every day? That takes teamwork. If one person has that attitude, but it doesn't carry through to your shipping dock, it does not matter, because the shipping dock are the ones that actually have to make the product go out and get there. So that team culture has been critical to our success. We started back in the early days, we'd have, when there were only 5 employees, 6 employees, 10 employees, we would have a weekly Monday morning. We'd talk about what did we do for the weekend. Did anybody have a brush with fame? Did anybody want to do a movie review? Kind of to get to know each other, talk about what we expected in terms of what deals we were trying to close for the week. We then now, once we grew, made that a monthly lunch meeting where we reviewed the same. We've now grown. We have over 140 associates. So we just, on Tuesday, had our quarterly lunch where we do the same thing. We give Value in Actions awards to those employees that are going above and beyond. They're nominated by their peers, and they get a American Express gift card and are recognized for doing that. So that culture, even though we've grown, is key to us. That's a relationship-based culture, and it's something that like I said, it's number one on my list in terms of what is the most valuable. Certainly, my husband, in terms of supporting what I do, is absolutely critical and picks up all the things. I could never do what I do on the work front if it weren't for him. So relationships in terms of what you do, whether or not you work for a small company, whether or not you work for a large company, or whether or not you're the executive in charge of your household, and there's some of you here, that's the key, and that's what makes it all work, and so can't underestimate that at all. The next is commitment, passion. A quote that I read years ago by Katharine Graham, who's the CEO of, she was the first woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and she said, to love what you do and feel that it matters, how could anything be any better? And that's really what I think is a very large component to making the whole juggle worth it and really evaluating. That's big. That's really how I feel about what I do. That's what everybody, I think, at Stratix should feel, and I think they do. Really feeling like what we do makes a difference. It does, and loving it. And that really puts work in a whole different perspective. It doesn't feel like work because it really is your passion. It is what you feel good about doing, and it's really what makes every day worth it. So if you don't have that commitment or passion about what you're doing, again, even if you're staying at home and you're not feeling fulfilled, find it in some way, shape, or form. We've only got one shot, so make it worth it. Make that passion something that really matters to you. And then this last, which is the focus, is it a balance or is it a juggle? And that's really what I'm going to focus on. I think it's a juggle, and here's why. Okay? This topic, probably for the first time I evaluated it in my career, was about almost 20 years ago. As a kind of in-service for the company, we brought in a speaker, a gentleman named Louis Timberlake. And I don't know if by chance, has anybody read any of his books or ever seen him speak? You might want to make a note and seek him out. Really one of the most energized, impactful speakers I've ever heard, Louis Timberlake. One of his greatest quotes is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Think about that. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It touches back to the relationship issue, okay? And Lewis really speaks to that as a guidepost, but he also had us all in the room that day. He handed out paper, so I didn't hand out paper, but you all work with me here. Here's a little visual. He said, okay, think about your life as this big pie, okay? Are you with me? Whatever flavor does it for you, okay? For me, it's a chocolate pie. Think about your life as a pie. And what are the things in your life that are important? And at the time, I was an overachiever. Again, that was almost 20 years ago. And so I had about 8 different things that I was writing down. I was trying to divide up my pie and analyze my pie. How'd it look? At the time, I was working about all the time. My work was a big old chunk of pie. I really didn't have much else going on. I worked about 7 days a week. I was not married. I had some friends. They barely remembered me. I guess I still had friends. Anyway, but that pie was it was a big work pie. There weren't much things. So today, I look at my pie a little differently. I say, okay, I've got my family, I've got my friends, I've got my faith, and I've got work. And ideally, I want that pie to be divided into 4 equal sections. That was my dream, the way Louis Timberlake inspired me to have a dream. Can I get this balance? Can I get that all balanced? And for the longest time, that was really how I evaluated myself. And then in the past few years, I've said, you know what? I don't believe that that is a realistic way to live a life, because as organized as I try to be, I am a list maker. Every day of my life, I make a list. It's really a sickness. I mean, if I don't mark things off my list, my day is not complete. It is so much of me. So I make a list, and I was evaluating my life. Okay, did I mark everything off my list? Seriously. I mean, it wouldn't be dinner time unless, but I've still got 3 things on my list. Well, and then the stress would start in the whole bit. I was trying to get, for me, that was a big part of my balance. I had not done my work piece if I hadn't done, and my list sometimes is personal things too. That was how I evaluated it. So I came to the conclusion that I feel like that is really a temporary. So I went for a new visual. I said, forget the pie thing, although I like that chocolate pie visual. But let's talk about maybe balance is a more temporary thing. So look at scales. And whatever objects you think go in the scale, the one that I get really excited about, let's say we've got marbles in our scale. And I have some marbles that represent work, and some that family, and some faith, some friends. Yeah, here I'm looking right at a friend. Like, yeah. Okay, so I've got that scale thing going on, and I've got it all really balanced because today I've had the day. Okay, this is the day when the scales are aligned. Imagine this with me, will you? My children are cordial at breakfast. They go to school in such a pleasant way, tell me they love me as they get out of the car with everything in their backpack that they meant to have. I go back to work. I answer the phone. It rings when I want it to ring. I don't have any random emails that need attention because I'm working on my list. My husband has lunch prepared for me. I eat it, go back to work, pick up my children. They're happy to see me. They promptly go to their rooms and do their homework because that's what they should do. At around 6, the dinner bell rings and dinner once again is prepared for me. I have everything done on my list because, again, I've not been interrupted one single time. I go to bed promptly at 9:30 because that's when I'd like to go to bed. How many of you can relate to that scenario? That is balance. That is balance. And one day, I might have that. I'm so hopeful. The reality is, and I do believe in today's world more than ever, that that's really, if we get that, it is so temporary because the next day, all hell will hit the fan. I mean, really, if you do get somewhere even close to that, because there's some days that I really do almost get that. But I think it's a temporary condition. I think that in today's world, and probably our youngsters will be more prepared to deal with it, we have more challenges than we've ever had before. And that balance illusion is just that. It's an illusion. So I think we can be better served if we look at life and we look at work as being really more of a juggle. And we just try to be good jugglers. And we have a whole new mindset that said there are a lot of good jugglers, and there are a lot of good jugglers that sometimes drop a ball. And it's okay. It's okay that you don't make dinner one night and you can go out instead, or if it's okay if you got some laundry that you really want to do, and it's okay that some other things just don't go perfectly well. I think we have so many demands on our time that we've never had before, and it's made more. Technology is so invasive. It's nice to have a BlackBerry that my husband calls the crackberry, but he makes me lock it in the office at certain times. He goes, enough, get off the BlackBerry. There's always somebody wanting you to do something, and it gets worse. I mean, it used to just be that occasionally I'd get one at night, but now a lot of folks that work with me really like to work at night. And so they'll send me a lot, which is good. I'm really happy for them. That doesn't mean I have to answer at night. Okay? So that's part of the juggle. And that's only going to get worse. You know, the first probably time this invasion happened was when we started having email. I would have my list on, and yes, the phone would ring, but that was, you know, a moderate level of intrusion. Email takes it up by about 10 in terms of all of a sudden you're hit with, oh, well, maybe. I mean, how many of you get distracted because you sit there? I mean, there are emails all day long, and they can be so distracting about really getting your job. And a lot of them are legit, a lot of them are not, but they do need attention. That is a distracting use and kind of an invasive use of technology. My children think email is archaic. Take it up a notch with texting and instant messaging, because then you even demand a quicker response. I don't want to sign on anywhere email. I want text them, find out what's going on. Calm down, okay? Now, on the workplace, that is invasive, and it requires that you juggle more or learn to block those distractions, whatever the case may be. So because we're in a dynamic world that is continuing to get more dynamic, who knows what's going to be next? There'll be a chip on you that'll go, Bonnie, answer, and you'll have to say, maybe I do. So I think that's part of our evolution. We are in a more dynamic world, and because of that, juggling is going to be more of a talent that we need to have. And frankly, I think it's a healthier way to look at it. And not worried about the illusion so much. Worry about being a good juggler. Let somebody else pick up some balls that you drop, and don't worry if you drop one, because good jugglers drop them. Think about what your priorities are. So that's really what I'm going to kind of leave you with here today is think about what's important to you. Look at that chocolate pie and think about how do you want your life divided. Think about how you want to be a good juggler and what's healthy to you. And what balls can drop, or where can you get somebody to be your juggler assistant if need be. And take that as a little healthier attitude. Maybe don't hold yourself so accountable to this balanced perfection. Okay? So I'm going to leave you here with some other kind of parting comments as you go down this path. Don't be afraid of what you don't know. I am honored to have a management team that I work with every day that is quite talented in many regards in areas that I don't have a clue. They'll talk to me and I'll have to ask for some other definitions to get through it, and I consider that a great honor. Don't be afraid of that, okay? Learn from others. There are a lot of resources that you can gain great value from, and I'm happy to do that every day, and I think that's what makes a good day. The last part, the last line really is just to enjoy this journey, or what I say, enjoy the juggle. We're lucky to be in this situation. I will paraphrase from a quote that a great bulldog, Lawrence Smith, said. He was in Georgia Trend sometime in the last couple months, and he said, life is not about great awards. Most of us will not win the Nobel Peace Prize, a Peabody, an Oscar, an Emmy, a Grammy, anything of that stature. However, if you really stop and reflect, we have the ability to every day treasure great things. And whatever that is, whether it's being here this morning and seeing some great friends, whether it's being discharged from the hospital when you didn't know if you would, whether it's a nice glass of wine with a friend, whether it's a wedding, whatever it is that you get the pleasure of enjoying, enjoy it. It may be a juggle, but it's a journey worth doing. So that's my spiel. I'm here, and I'll be glad to answer some questions, not all, if y'all have any.
And just to remind everyone, we webcast this on the Terry College webpage, so wait for a microphone if you have a question.
Yes, I was really tickled to hear that. Diane did not tell me that initially when I agreed to speak.
Not full disclosure.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Hi, my son is a Terry School. He's in international business and accounting and double major in Spanish, and he's worked with Coke for the last couple of summers in Latin America. And he's done route truck and other things, and they need some of the tools that you have.
I love that.
I wondered if you had an international division.
We do not have an international division, but maybe he could be our first employee of our international division.
That's a thought. He's a senior.
I like that.
Anyway, I'll get your card.
Sí.
I'll get your card.
Sí. Gracias. He's a Spanish major. I'm seeing a future here. Actually, Coke, we do a fair amount of work with them, but they're getting ready to do a refresh project that will embrace it because it's not dated, but it is.
He's working with the bottlers, so some of them are separate.
Yeah, they are.
Some of them
Yeah. We work with CBCCC out of Charlotte, is a great user of our technology.
But it's a real need for that.
No question about it.
They call on customers 7 days a week.
It is huge. Once you see it, you don't realize the void until you work with an efficient one. You don't understand how inefficient it is. But it is. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm not asking you to give up trade secrets, but I was interested in the earlier part about your business with Sara Lee, for example, or Napa.
Right.
What is it about a business that already has an existing mapping system, tracking system, etc.? What is it about your company that would go after a Sara Lee? Or, in other words, how do you evaluate a company, or you just see everybody out there as your potential customers for you?
Well, I mean, we really do. Although once you get an expertise in a certain segment, that's why Napa was a very similar. Whether you're delivering bread or auto parts, we don't really care. It's a thing, okay? It's an asset. It's something that you need to track, and you need to get into the supply chain efficiently. You need to know you got it there. Your customer needs to know they got it there. You need to bill for it, the whole bit. So from our perspective, at 30,000 feet, we don't care. It's a person, a place, or a thing that we're trying to keep up with. But more realistically, once you get an expertise in a certain segment, and that be proof of delivery, signature capture, that sort of thing, then it's easy to carry it from one to one. Every customer has they really have the trade secret that they feel like they have a secret sauce that they want to protect. And so then you'll go in and do some custom work based on what is it that Sara Lee does differently from another bakery or something of that nature. But from our perspective, once you are just doing that general process, the item itself is not that significant. We don't really see it as a big showstopper. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thanks for asking. Any other question? Oh, yes.
Just a quick question. Does y'all's technology, or is your technology used by FedEx and UPS? Kind of building off her question, because they track it through the entire delivery process.
Yes, but they have a proprietary system that they develop themselves. But it's use a barcode. The great thing about barcoding technology is barcodes there are a couple exceptions. They're in the public domain, meaning that anyone's free to scan it, to print it. There are algorithms that are published on how you do that part of it. That now is not a novelty. It was in the early 80s when we started. Our very first product was the camera-ready artwork for how you put a barcode on a product. And that was really what we did till almost the end of the 80s, early 90s. But that became really more commonplace, a little bit more of a commodity, which is what led us. We've been through several evolutions in 26 years. That's what led us more to this path, because in this case we have more intellectual property that we own, and that is the way you transmit the way you track products is more of what we have developed. So the barcode itself is a public domain, can be used, but it's what you do to utilize that is the key. In FedEx's case, they were revolutionary. They developed their own system. It set them apart. I told Chris this story earlier. When you really look from a career standpoint at what's changed, when we first started in 1983, our big decision was, should we buy a fax machine or not? And that was, we pondered that for a week. Oh, and even not should we buy it, should we lease it or buy it? It was $600. It was a big asset. $600. It was our biggest corporate purchase because we had an old clunky computer that, But that was big, and we would transmit orders because our barcode was actually produced in New York before we bought that business. We would transmit orders. It took 6 minutes to send a page. I'm sorry. I know. But I just had to tell that because y'all know how old I am now anyway. There are no secrets. But at the same time, FedEx could tell you where a package was in 30 minutes. So we would ship product. We had a lot of customers, graphic designers, who were trying to get this barcode overnight. Well, FedEx could track a package in 30 minutes by using barcoding, although their infrastructure was not that developed. UPS could track a product in 10 days. That was in 1983 because it was a paper-based system. Now, they obviously recognized that for them to even stay in the game with FedEx, they needed to change. So they invested $1 bazillion in their infrastructure to allow them to give them the visibility that they have now. That's a barcode-based solution. And then FedEx, of course, upgraded their infrastructure. They used to take this little handheld that looked like a giant pen. They used to stick it in a device, and it would go back to a satellite. And now they transmit on the fly, So, but that's all changed. But that's how things have changed. So think about, seriously, when my teenagers, which I didn't share that part, I have teenagers. Yeah, when they get in the workforce, what it's going to be like for it. And it's the expectation that mobile worker is that next generation, and they're so comfortable with it. It's been a transition for folks that have been working for a while, but for our next generation of workers, it's a slam dunk. They'll expect to have the information right here when they want to use it and do something with it. Any other questions? Zach, are you going to be nice? Okay.
Recognizing that there have been several evolutions, as you just alluded to, in the history of Stratix, from the seminal lease or buy fax machine event through where your technology's gone, where and then even further diversifying from retail, where are the areas that you see Stratix evolving to, and where do you hope to compete in the next 5 years? From kind of what type of clients or industries, or where do you see yourself growing towards?
Well, the biggest evolution is just the fact that we don't even look out 5 years anymore. And somebody asked me this, Chris asked me this earlier, about I remember meeting with you 10 years ago, and you said you're working on your 5-year plan. And we used to do a 5-year plan, and now things shift so much, a 5-year plan's unrealistic. We're talking about a 3-year plan, and that's even kind of a dream. We're just trying to get through 2009, to tomorrow. But seriously, our biggest investment is in the software, because that is such a differentiator. We have, until the last 3 to 4 years, been so hardware-centric. So if you look at our company, we look about the markets we serve. Retail was our biggie, and we've worked on diversifying from that. Hardware has been so dominating, and that's great, but that turns into being kind of a cookie-cutter approach. So it's the services we can wrap around hardware that create recurring revenue and lifelong customers. And it's the software that, again, creates license. It's a scalable software model. So let me say that. That's a little more key. The software we do now is more custom, one-off. You go, you get engrossed in a Sara Lee, you stay there, you learn how to bake bread, you feel like you are bread. I mean, you live it, you dream it, you don't ever want to buy bread. I mean, it goes through several cycles, but it's a one-off custom application that's great. And it's a great success, and it's a wonderful thing. But developing a software model that's scalable is our next big challenge, and it's a tough one. And then the services that make our hardware, and this has been kind of a 3-year effort, and we continue to do that. But it's asset management. How do we make that? We do break fix of our equipment. So really doing that whole life cycle of an asset is big, and so that we can continue to refresh, and again, it encourages that customer for life mentality, and that's what we want to have. Does that help? You're welcome. Thank you.
Could you speak a little bit to what you're trying to do as far as your corporate culture to foster more internal innovation among your workforce?
Well, that kind of goes in spells. Certainly the software portion of our business has, that is their nature. They work in these little cliques that they call them, where instead of the cube-like world that we have on our traditional side, every salesperson has their cube, and accounting has their cube, and customer support has their cube. The software team wants to work in these little tribes. So we've had to reconfigure this tribe mentality, just short of, bringing in rice and all that kind of stuff. But that's what they want to do. And so they hand off to one another. They very much thrive on ideas on how we can do it. And that's almost something that's led by that technology leader that feels like that's what they have to have. And when we have a customer who presents a problem, they bring it into this think tribe, and that's what they brainstorm on, how different ways we can do that more efficiently and that sort of thing. Kind of speaking to Chris's question, and when we look at a customer, we really work on that relationship. What can we do better? What is it you're trying to achieve? What can we do? So we come back and put it in that little software think tank, and that's what they do. It's kind of a foundation of their business. On the other side, we have this, to go inside with our Value in Action Awards that we recognize at our quarterly luncheon, we also have this idea process that if you have a money-saving idea or a culture, something that's good for our company, we recognize that and give rewards for that at our quarterly luncheon as well. Yes, sir.
Do you see this recession or this economy making the juggle more difficult?
Absolutely. It's the big unknown. It's the big unknown from a lot of perspectives, I think. I'm fortunate to have my bankers here today, which scares me perhaps. If they follow me to the car, I want somebody here with me. No. We were talking about it briefly in terms of what they're seeing. We're seeing a little bit of fallout. We've been fortunate that luckily people haven't quit investing yet. They may be prolonging rollouts. They may be prolonging a project. And that's not all capital related. It's in some cases the fact that what they're doing internally to get ready for a new project is taking longer than they had anticipated. It could be that they're dealing with not as much labor to do a project as they had before. So that presents a little bit of a juggle when you're trying to balance what you do on the work front. And certainly I think everybody has a different issue in what you're dealing with. There is some uncertainty that makes juggling more difficult. You know, what is the wind doing? You know, I'm afraid to turn on the news, and what do they say? I have found that very helpful, to watch less TV. It's a very healthy way that I can juggle better. Seriously. You can only juggle if you're focused. If you're not focused, you can't do it. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question more about the personal side and the family ball
Bring it
that you
on.
have to juggle. Has there ever been a point, you know, it sounds like for 26 years you've just, you know, you've worked kind of throughout those years. And have you ever had a time when you had to stop and just take time for that family ball and then wondered, which direction am I going to go in?
Well, I've never really thought, so somewhat yes, okay. Let me share a couple little stories that haven't been all that great. Okay, I mentioned that I have a 15-year-old and 14-year-old who, obviously, they hadn't always been 15 and 14. I had them. And very close together. They're a year and a half apart. And there were times, I was the first person at my company to have a child. So there were times that my partner and my brother, who used to work with me, I'd come in. Neither one of my children slept well at all. My son was he was first. He was decent. Then all of a sudden, I'm pregnant again. I have my daughter who did not sleep for the first year. And my husband was a trooper and really, really a tremendous help. But it doesn't matter. It wears you both out. Doesn't matter how good that team is. And really, I would come into work just exhausted, literally sleeping and walking in my sleep, whatever that was. Yeah. And we had a meeting one time, and my partner goes, "You know what? You look like hell." And I go, "Oh, really? I feel worse than I look." I said, "So shut up." I mean, and it was, I really had no support on the work front then because no one could relate to what I was going through. And I was a zombie. I was not productive, really. And I cut back a little bit. I worked more from home at that time. I would do more things at night that I felt like I was contributing. I tried to adjust my work time, and I never thought I'm not going to work. But I did a lot of times think, is this worth it? And then before you knew it, I kind of worked through it, and it became worth it, you know. And I've never really regretted that for a second. My children, I believe, have benefited from seeing me work, and they learn a lot from it. They're now at the age where they really embrace it and talk about it, and I think that's a great gift I've given them. I do have a great deal of flexibility as a business owner, believe me. 10 years ago, that's why I moved from Atlanta, because my life was out of balance, totally. I wasn't even juggling really all that great. And I felt like a move would be good. I knew that a lot of my job could be done virtually, and I've been able to wing it. But it took me to really take the stand to say, I've got to do something differently so that I can even get close to a balance. And I really wasn't. And there are phases of my life that I haven't been. I talked about them, you know, but they were right at the time. So I think you make the juggle work for what's important to you right now. And there are times when it is important. There are times that I draw the line and say, I'm going to do this with my family. Can we reschedule the meeting, or can it go on without me? And that's what I make work. Yes, sir.
Having the opportunity to meet a lot of entrepreneurs, and maybe there's some entrepreneurs in this room, I've learned that a number of them have a tough time walking away from whatever they've created. What is your, obviously you haven't gotten there yet, but what is your thoughts on what the end looks like for you as far as from a professional career oriented?
That's really kind of where I am right now. And so I hear what you're saying, and I very much agree with you, and that's why I know I'm not 100% entrepreneur. I got drug along by an entrepreneur to become really a doer and a creator, but I am not 100% entrepreneur. I can't imagine not doing something, but at the same time, I believe there's some point for Stratix to go on without me. And what does that look like? I have no idea. And when is the right time? I just think I'll figure it out. But I agree with you. My partner, who died what he was doing, died doing what he loved doing. He would have never been able, or not without knowing what was going to be the next opportunity that he could do. But that's not 100% me. It is certainly nurturing and growing what we're doing. It is 100% me, no question. But as to what that exit strategy is, I don't know. That's kind of the phase of my life I'm in right now that I'm spending a fair amount of time talking about. Thank you all for being here very much. I very much appreciate it.
Well, and I'm glad Bonney has not lost her sense of humor after, 26 years in the business world.
And I started as a 10-year-old. Yeah. Yeah.
And to thank you for being here today, I have a sculpture from an Athens artist, Paul Benzunas. And
lovely.
It's a little heavy.
An artiste. Look, thank you. Thank you. Very lovely. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
All right.
And don't forget the magic words to get out of the garage or Terry Third Thursday. We're adjourned. Thank you all.
Magic.